The medical bay's sterile lights hummed overhead as Marcus Chun lay on the examination table, his scarred torso exposed to the cool air of the starship Harmony. 3 years had passed since the Battle of Kepler 442b, but the raised tissue across his chest and arms told the story as clearly as any war memorial. Zareth moved with practiced efficiency around the medical station, her 4 slender arms working in perfect coordination. Her species, the Veltar, had joined the Galactic Coalition only after humanity had already bled for their freedom. Marcus watched her graceful movements, noting how she avoided direct eye contact with his injuries, a common reaction among Coalition species when faced with human battle scars. "The tissue regeneration is proceeding well," she said, her melodious voice carrying the slight harmonic undertones typical of her people. "Though I must ask these older marks." She gestured with one delicate hand toward the jagged lines that crisscrossed his shoulder. "They appear to be from plasma burns, severe ones." Marcus nodded, sitting up slightly. "Veltar plasma rifles, actually. Your military standard issue during the hegemony occupation." Zareth's large, silver eyes widened, and her usually steady hands paused in their work. The Veltar were known throughout the galaxy for their empathetic nature, their ability to sense emotional resonance in others. It made them exceptional healers, but terrible soldiers, which was exactly why the Krillian hegemony had enslaved them so easily. "You were there?" she whispered. "At the liberation of Velmora Prime?" "I was there," Marcus confirmed, watching as she processed this information. "3rd Human Expeditionary Force, 42nd Regiment. We lost a lot of good people breaking the hegemonies. Grip on your homeworld." She was quiet for a long moment, her healing scanner forgotten in her hand. When she spoke again, her voice carried a weight that hadn't been there before. "The records say that humans suffered 60% casualties in that campaign. Your species had no obligation to intervene. We weren't even members of the Coalition then." Marcus shrugged, immediately regretting the movement as it pulled at his healing tissues. "Obligations got nothing to do with it. We saw what the hegemony was doing to your people. The forced labor, the neural suppression collars, the—" He stopped, seeing the pain that flickered across her features. "We couldn't just stand by. But why?" The question burst from her with surprising intensity. "Your kind barely knew us. We had nothing to offer in return. The other species in the Coalition, they deliberated for months, weighing costs and benefits. Humans took one look at our situation and declared war on the most powerful empire in 3 sectors." Marcus met her gaze steadily. "Because that's what you do when someone needs help." Zareth's scanner clattered to the floor, her composure finally breaking. "Do you know what the hegemony did to healers like me? They used our empathic abilities to torture prisoners more efficiently. They made us feel every moment of their victims' pain while forcing us to keep them alive for questioning." Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "For 7 years, I was their instrument of suffering." The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken understanding. Marcus had seen the intelligence reports, knew what the liberated Veltar had endured. But hearing it from her, seeing the way her graceful frame trembled with the memory, made it real in a way that battlefield briefings never could. "The day your ships arrived," she continued, "I was in the medical wing of a detention facility on Velmora's northern continent. The Krillian commander brought in a group of resistance fighters, ordered me to keep them conscious while he extracted information. But then the bombardment started. Human ships cutting through the orbital defenses, like they were made of paper." She knelt to retrieve her scanner, her movement slower now, weighted down by memory. "The facility shook so violently that the neural suppression grid failed for 17 minutes. For the first time in years, I could choose not to comply. I helped those prisoners escape instead." Marcus watched her straighten, noting the new resolve in her posture. "The humans who died that day," she said, "the 60% casualties you mentioned, they gave their lives for beings they'd never met. For me, specifically, I was one of thousands freed by their sacrifice." "That's what humans do," Marcus said simply. We see someone in trouble. We help. Doesn't matter if they're human or not. Zareth approached the examination table again, but this time she looked directly at his scars. Her hand hovered over the plasma burn on his shoulder, the worst of them, a twisted knot of tissue that had required multiple surgeries to repair. This one nearly killed you, she said. It wasn't a question. Krillian Death Squad caught our unit during the final assault on their command center. I was covering the retreat of a group of Veltar civilians. Marcus touched the scar reflexively, took a direct hit from their squad leader. Would have been fatal if our medic hadn't been right there. You fought for someone, Zareth said softly, her empathic senses clearly picking up the emotional resonance of the memory. Marcus looked up at her, at this gentle being whose people had been enslaved and tortured, who had been freed by human sacrifice, and now dedicated her life to healing others. He thought of the 60% casualties, of friends whose names were etched in memorial walls across human space, of the choices species had made to fight for strangers who couldn't fight for themselves. For you, he said quietly. I fought for you. Tears of the clear fluid that leaked from Veltar eyes could be called tears began to flow down Zareth's face. She placed her hand over his scarred shoulder, and for a moment, Marcus could swear he felt some of her empathic warmth flowing between them. Thank you, she whispered, for all of us. Thank you. In the gentle hum of the medical bay, surrounded by the technology of a dozen species now united in peace, Marcus understood why humanity's scars were worn as badges of honor throughout the galaxy. They weren't marks of violence, but proof of a species willing to bleed for strangers, to sacrifice for the innocent, to fight for those who couldn't fight for themselves. It was what made them human. It was what made them heroes. And in the gratitude shining in an alien healer's eyes, it was enough.